All right, good morning. All right, welcome, guys. So, this is one more chapter. Good morning, Yelappa. Good morning, Kavita's Kitchen. Spurti, welcome. Viviana, good morning. Shivani, good morning. Good morning, Anushka. Ashwarya, good morning. Sri Raksha, I think I'm seeing you first time. Good morning. Harshita, good morning. Shilpa, good morning. Harshita, good morning. Vamshita, good morning. Good morning, Pujita. Good morning, Vandana. Rajeshwari, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Athiya. Vishwajit, welcome. Good morning. Purnima, welcome. Swati, good morning. Shweta, good morning. Right. Just want to see if you say this is your convenient time, whether you attend this or not. Otherwise, I will have to give the lectures as per my convenient time. Right. Ratna, good morning. Abhishek, good morning. Ketan, good morning. Right. So we are going to learn about something called as firewalls. Okay. What are the role of this firewall? What are they trying to protect? These firewalls. And in this course you have already seen this you have already come across this term firewalls. Where exactly do you remember? Exactly on the first chapter of the first module, where they talk about guidelines or principles to to make all the security. There you were having some eight guidelines, if you remember, and one of the guidelines says defense in depth, right? If you remember. Good morning, Shruti. Sanju, good morning. Keetana, good morning. Sunil, good morning. Priyanka, good morning. Priya, good morning. Rashmi, good morning. Right. So you remember there was a concept of defense in depth. What it said, it was mentioned company or organization can make use of multiple firewalls, like multiple in a sense, one or two, one or more, not more than two, because it's very expensive thing. And firewall comes in software form as well as hardware form, right? So what exactly a firewall does? Kim, good morning. Kalyan, good morning. Sandhya, welcome. Asha, good morning. Right. So what does a firewall does? Roshni, good morning. A firewall is nothing but that, let's call it as a security guard that control access between internal protected network and external untrusted network based on a given security policy. Okay, call these security guards what you have in your institute, in your college. What are their roles? To control access between, let's say, internal protected network is nothing but you guys, all the uh, you know the students of at your organization, or even the faculties or all the staff, right? They are internal protected network, let's call it as. And what is who all will be the external untrusted network? It's outsiders. So they have to protect, control access between those two based on some given security policy, because some clash might happen if in the network, or leakage of information, all those it is trying to protect. So good morning, Channa. Good morning, Anjali. Right. So beside preventing intruders getting inside, firewall also help prevent confidential inside data from getting out. Means insiders should not leak out sensitive organization information to the outside public world in the internet. That is also a role of firewall. So firewall may be implemented in a hardware, as in a standalone application, or a software on a PC. Good morning, Sagar. So do you guys remember a name of any firewall? Have you come across any firewall? Can you tell me name of any firewall? Maybe you have seen something called as Windows Firewall in your all your systems. Good morning, Sanjay. Right? But have you come across any hardware firewall? There are different types of firewall you would have come across. Can you name in the chat? Can you name one of the hardware firewall? Maybe if you are aware what firewall we have in the organization. Yeah, Windows Firewall is one. College Wi-Fi has firewall. Yeah, can you name which one is that? Do you know the name of the organization or company? That is nothing but. And one more thing, is that a hardware firewall? Is that, or is it just like a software firewall? College Wi-Fi does have firewall. Yes. Okay, so I will tell you. It's called Sophos. 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 Sophos firewall. Now there are multiple firewalls. Sophos, and if you Google something called as Fortinet, I'll just mention the name here. Fortinet. Okay, or Sophos. These are nothing but names of different firewalls, hardware firewall, and there are more. Okay, so where it is installed, it is installed in one of the server rooms, but you have also come across in the guideline principle, we have to carefully you carefully balance out the cost versus performance also. In a very small organization where company cannot afford lot of expenses, they will either have one software firewall or a hardware firewall. They cannot have both, right? Because it's a very costly. But in a very tier one organization or some IT organization which is probably Fortune 100 or Fortune 50, they can afford to have multiple firewall, one software firewall as well as hardware firewall, because and also it helps you to enhance security. So this is nothing but a firewall, defense in depth. Now, since as a home user, you are not required to have both software firewall and as well as a hardware firewall. Windows firewall is more than enough for you to serve one particular user in your home, right? So what are the basic functionalities of this firewall? These are the four basic functionalities: access control, address port translation, logging, and authentication caching, right? Good morning, Savita. Good morning, Darshan. Nazir, good morning. Right, so in access control, what happens? What exactly is the access control, first of all? Right, so I'll give you a scenario. A firewall filters incoming packets, let's say from the internet is your public network, right? And your organization, let's say your organization is your private network. So firewall filters incoming packets as well as outgoing packets. So incoming from a public internet to your private organization, also your from within your private network to outside world. So it filters both. So access control, and also firewall is said to be configured with a rule set based on which it decides whether packets are to be allowed and which are to be dropped. That is nothing but your access control. So let's say in the Sophos, what we have in the organization, we will block some of the sites. We will just mention the URL of the site and port number. Immediately it will be blocked in all the users. So it's a central coordination. A manager or a admin can directly log into the firewall graphical user interface or whatever user interface it is, or if whether it is a graphical user interface or command line interface, he will just log in, and in the access control list he will just add a rule set. That is nothing but your access control, right? So next is your address port translation. Yeah, good morning, Ramya. Good morning, Navya. So network address translation was initially devised to make the shortest, so first of all, to make the shortage of IP addresses not very how do I say it? Like there was shortage of IP address, so to alleviate that risk, to minimize that risk, so that is why network address translation was initially devised. So how it what is the operation of NAT? It provides a set of private IP addresses that could be used by system administrator on their internal networks, but those are globally invalid means it is invalid on the internet. So it is possible to hide these IP addresses for some machines from the outside world by the use of this NAT. So through the NAT, let's say NAT is used in your college or in your organization internal machine, whatever machine you have. If you see if you ping one of the IP address of one of your computer in your lab, you will find something like 192.168 1.24 or 1.30.35, right? And if someone in another college or another institute, they will there also, if you ping, you will find some similar ping, some similar IP address. But that doesn't mean like those IP address I mean they are same. Yes, they are same, but they are same within the organization. When they come out, or when they come out through the public internet, they are translated to some public IP address that is nothing but your private IP address within your organization. So that is done by your network address translation. And this natting, the process is called as natting, NATING, network address translating, is done by your firewalls. Okay, that's the role of the firewall. Next thing is logging. So it's a security architecture. It ensures whatever the incoming and outgoing packet encounters at least one in firewall. Okay, all the packets goes through firewall, right? It can log all. Let's say there is a let's say a firewall is running for 1 month, and it is inspecting all the normal behavior, and after 1 month a very random packet has been come to notice. So it will immediately find out it's a different thing. It's not a normal behavior, it is anomalous packet. So it will be kept for some study. So it will be checked, all the packet information will be checked, and if it is proper, then it will be filtered or passed through. Because these packets, this unknown packet, can be like your intruders packet, and can be worms, or also be launched to do some kind of a distributed denial of service attacks, right? Next thing we have is authentication or caching. All right, okay, authentication. So immediately when I say authentication, what comes to your mind is the feature of login. Login means login with your user ID and password, authenticating yourself. Good morning, Harika. Right, so login and logging are two different things. When I say login, login is you are providing login and you're authenticating yourself. Logging, and on the other hand, it means you are making entries or records. All right, so sometimes of firewalls perform authentication of external machine that attempts to establish connection with your internal machine. So those special type of firewall is called as web proxy. Okay, web proxy. And now you are very aware of what a proxy is, right? You guys are very good at giving proxies for your friends. So some similar to that, right? So it's a special type of firewall called web proxy. It authenticates internal users attempting to access as external service. So such a firewall is used to do or cache frequently requested web pages. This what is the result of this? It results in decreased response time to the client while saving the communication bandwidth. Now when I say this, when I talk about this, you can imagine how proxy works. Now here we have something called as web proxy. Proxy works as both client and server, at not at a time, but at some other point of time. So web proxy can act as a client for a server or a server for another client. It's like a middleman, okay, who is serving you. That is done by proxy servers or web proxy. Now next thing is what we're going to talk about is policies and access control lists. Now I told you what are access control lists, right? So I'll just tell you again. The firewall is configured with some kind of a rule set based on which it decides which packets are to be allowed, which packets are to be dropped. Like entry, how we maintain entry in a router in a routing table. But here in firewall devices hardware, we maintain it in the form of a access control list, ACLs. So that is your ACL. Now, so they are predefined like a protocol. What is a protocol? It's a set of rules that governs communication. So here in access control list, it is high level policies to access various types of services within an organization or campus. So if I have to tell one a few of the policies, let's say let's call something like all received email, whatever email I'm receiving should be filtered for spam and viruses. Okay, all HTTP requests sent by requested by external clients, outsiders, for access to authorized pages of the my organization should be permitted. HTTPS request. Now organization employees should be allowed to remotely log into the authorized internal machines. So means I can log into the organization data from remotely. So this can be done by these policies. So only two kinds of outgoing traffic are permitted. Let's say all email from within the organization to the outside world are permitted, and requests from within the organization for external web pages are also permitted. But request for pages for inappropriate websites should be denied. So like this, it's a very straightforward thing. These are nothing but high level policies. Something, if you want to use something like in any programming language, if you want to use a variable, you have to declare it, right? So here also, if you want to perform properly, you have to declare some of the policies at the first place. Now next thing is access control list specify some actions, high level policies. So these are nothing but high level policies that are translated into set of rules. So what are the different actions? It checks on the packets, how it is mentioned. It checks on packet source IP address and port number, packets destination IP address and port number, transport protocol that is being used, TCP or UDP, or the packet's direction, whether it is incoming traffic or whether it's a outgoing traffic. So these policies, it can be either of two types. Either it's called as either permissive or restrictive. So when a policy is called as permissive, when it permits all the packets except those that are explicitly forbidden. Means in the advance, at the very beginning, while during the setup of the machines or the network or installation of the firewall, it is mentioned or it is specified by the administrator to explicitly forbid this particular sites. These sites will not open. So like that. So when I good morning, right? And a restrictive policy says drop all the packets those are explicitly permitted, right? So these are two things. Now if you see this table here, access example for access control list, right? You can see the table, right? Now it is mentioned, first column is nothing but numbers, then we have inbound or outbound, means whether it is a incoming traffic or outgoing traffic. Incoming means traffic is coming inside, that is represented by I. O is outgoing traffic. Now what kind of transport protocol is used, like TCP, UDP or IPsec, right? And if you see closely here, there is a transfer protocol like any. It's not mentioned specifically which transport protocol it is using, the incoming traffic or outgoing traffic. So it is, since it's not defined in the access control list, we will simply deny. If you see the second last column, it is mentioned as deny, forbid all other incoming traffic or forbid all other outgoing traffic, right? Source port number is any, because we don't know where the traffic is originating from. So port number is also mentioned. Sorry, destination port number is mentioned, but action is based on what is the transport protocol or some other access control list defined, right? Sorry. So next thing is firewall types. So this is the most important question in this chapter. They will ask you this for 8 or 10 marks. Explain the categories of firewalls for 10 marks. This is the most, see, these questions, they can be asked like ACL, what is ACL, and this thing, but this is the sure question every time it is asked, because since you have this module 4 has 5 chapters, so they it's like one selective or one or two selective questions from each of these chapters that is repeated in this subject. This is one. Explain the different categories of firewall. So what are the 3 categories of firewall? Packet filters, stateful inspection, and application layer level firewalls. Now, packet filter firewalls, it involves checking for matches in the IP, TCP, and UDP headers. So I'll give you an example. It may be necessary to check whether a packet carries a certain specific source IP address or destination IP address or port number. It is often performed by which one? The border router or access router that connects the organization network to the internet. Now can you tell me in the chat, can you tell me name given to the border router or access router that connects the organization network to the internet? What is the term you call to the router which is at the very border, or let's say the first router to the organization, first or last router? Let's say first router, where which is experienced by out incoming traffic to your organization, or the last router, gateway. Yes, it's called the gateway. Good answer. So it is up. Gateway has this kind of functionalities. So in effect, border router becomes the first line of defense against these malicious incoming packets. So why packet filtering firewall is not enough or not efficient? Good morning, Atul. Right. So why, question is why the packet filtering firewall is inadequate. Okay. Now I'll just give you a small. Okay, they have given you a case study on that. Right. Okay. So consider a external mail server. You know what is a mail server? Okay. How do you transfer a mail? What protocol is used to transfer a mail? Can you tell me in the chat? What is the protocol used to send a mail? Any idea? Can you tell me in the chat? Question is, what is the protocol used to transfer a mail? SMTP. Yes, good. Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, right? And we have POP3 to download that mail, or even IMAP, right? So what happens here? Before doing that, it should first establish a TCP connection with the organization mail server. Let's call it as MS, mail server. Yes, good answer, SMTP. Now let's consider the arrival of packet in different attributes. In terms of different attributes, let's say source IP address is something like ABC, destination IP address is the mail server's IP address. Let's say TCP destination port is something like 25 nothing but SMTP port, and it has some kind of flags like acknowledge ACK flags and all. Now such packet would be part of normal flow, provided a connection between that source IP address ABC to mail destination IP address mail server has been established. But suppose such a connection has not yet been established. Connection has not been established. So the next question is, should the packet still be allowed in? Connection is not established, but should the packet be still allowed in? Simple packet filter firewall will allow the packet to enter even if no prior connection between ABC and mail server was established. So what is the drawback in this simple packet filter firewall? It only inspects the header of the incoming packet in isolation. It does not see the packet as a part of connection or flow. So hence it will not be able to filter out the packets arriving from source IP address. So some drawback is there in this packet filtering firewall. Okay, so let's see about this next stateful inspection firewall. So as the name suggests, it is inspecting the states. So just give you a scenario what is happening here. So this firewall uses packets, TCP flags, sequence acknowledgement numbers to determine whether it is part of an existing authorized flow. When I say something like part of an existing authorized flow, means let's say for a few months the same packets have been arriving or sending out, so it has made his packets entry in the access control list. Okay, it is there in the on the records. So if it is participating in the established of an authorized connection, or if it is already part of an existing connection, packet is permitted. So otherwise it is dropped. Means to say, whenever at the very first time you do something, or the packet arrives or packet goes out, it makes the state or an entry of that packet in the firewall. Okay, that's the meaning of this. Right, so in application level firewall, okay, this is a application level firewall. It even with added functionality of stateful packet inspection, uh, it's not enough. It's not enough, right? So we need something like a application level firewall. When I say application level firewall, something which is readily available to the user, directly available to the user. User has direct interaction with that particular device or application. So what is needed is a firewall that can examine the application payload, scan packets for virus, worms, spam mail, inappropriate content. Such a device is called as deep inspection firewall. Okay, and the special kind of firewall, application level firewall, is that is built using proxy agents. These are nothing but your proxy firewall, and again it acts as an intermediary between client and server. We saw the meaning of what is a proxy firewall is, right? So if you see the figure here, I think I can show you the figure here. Yeah, application level firewall. So you can directly see in the what is happening in proxy firewall. Okay, so you have to remember proxy firewall is associated with application level firewall. For the first case, without proxy. Next is with proxy. So without proxy, there is a direct TCP connection between client and server. So with proxy, there is a proxy firewall in the center, which is acting as client for server and then server for the client. So it is doing some necessary inspection before before you communicate the required packets. So it is much more convenient and much better in all the aspects. So to a client, proxy appears as a server, and to the server, proxy appears as a client. Since there is no direct communication between the client and server, worms and other malwares will not be able to pass between the two. But if you see the first figure, direct TCP connection, they can pass. So assuming that the proxy can detect and filter out malware, the presence of proxy enhances your security. That's the role of application level firewall. Now it also has, okay, the concept of caching is also present there. So in addition to filtering based on application layer data, proxy can perform two more things, that is client authentication and logging. Okay, so HTTP proxy can also cache web pages. Caching, okay, you know what is caching in this where we are talking about here, caching. So caching has a major impact on performance. Okay, well, how a cache memory works in an operating system. Some instructions are stored in the, if some instruction are stored in the cache, and if you have a larger cache memory in your computer, you will see the higher or faster or boost in your performance in overall operation. Right here also, caching is present in this particular firewall. Right, if the web page is cached in the web proxy server located in the client organization, the response time could be greatly reduced compared to that where the page has to be fetched from the external web server. Right, so this caching reduces demand on external communication bandwidth while easing the load on the web server. So firewalls are necessary element in the security architecture of the organization. So to permit access or from the or to gain the packets from the external world. So that is all about these types of firewall. The last thing is your placement of firewalls. Okay, next thing is some case study which we don't want. So this is the last thing here, and also this one also. If you see this part, this will not be asked, but what you can tell, it's a simplified rule set or access control list, how it looks in to a administrator when we logs into the application level firewall, like some name, some users are mentioned, or fields like from port to IP address, and what is the protocol used and what is the action to be done. Let's say a central administrator has the you know authority to change the action, whether it is to drop or whether to accept. And once he does that, uh, so let's say if in our organization there is a one network we are using, right? So at the center, if he does accept for one particular user or one particular packet from IP address to our IP address, so that will be valid in all the different let's say 1,000 machine that is to be connected to that network. All the machines are able to access that. And if he can also select one particular user, only one user, and enables for him also. Okay, depending on how he wants it. So the last thing is placement of firewalls. Right, so this can be asked as well. Okay, now we have noted that firewalls help you to segregate or isolate the network into multiple security zones. Okay, so there are basically 3 zones. If you see that part here, we have internet at the, I think, I don't know if you can see the marker on my screen, but anyway, you have internet at the very top. You have the region containing the publicly accessible servers. Okay, you can see that the publicly accessible servers, like at the right side you have web server, email server, DNS server, those things. And then you have something like at the DMZ2, internal email server or internal network, internal proxy, all those things. So what is DMZ? First of all, DMZ is called as demilitarized zone. Now those who are having router at your home, or router at your home or Wi-Fi at your home, you would have experienced when you log into the router, let's say you log into the router by typing the IP address 192.168.1.1 or 0.1, right? And then you type your command admin, then you log into the router. Sometimes your internet doesn't work, so you will reboot that way. Now you would have seen some option like DMZ. You will notice that option DMZ. So that is nothing but your demilitarized zone. And what it does, so keep your DMZ always uh, restricted, don't make it open. Okay, in unless you trust the network you're connected to, don't make it open. You have to, you can check it. If you have Wi-Fi at your home, you can log into your router, you will find somewhere where this DMZ, demilitarized zone, right? So each firewall in the organization enforces rules that control the transfer of packets between different security zones. We have the security zones, right? Internet region containing the publicly accessible servers and the internal network. Now, of the three firewalls, where is the first firewall? Okay, so can you see the border router at the very top? We have border router. It is nothing but your gateway, or first line of defense. It does some kind of packet filtering capability. It has some packet filtering capability. Of the three firewalls what we have, first is your border router. So this is the access router interfaces. This is the access router, also called as access router, that interfaces with your internet. So it is then connected to a firewall, right? You can see the firewall FW1 mentioned there, which has three interfaces. So firewall that have more than two interfaces are also referred to as multi-homed. You can make a note of it, or you can study this. What is the meaning? Since we have, you can see the firewall 1, it has one connection coming from 10.1.0.1, one is 10.10.201, there is 10.301, three interfaces, right? So when a firewall has more than two interfaces, they are referred to as multi-homed, right? So the zone connected to the right of the interface of this firewall 1 is referred to as screened subnet. Okay, because it is more also it is more commonly referred to as DMZ1. So basically, what is a DMZ? DMZ in a true sense is the area between two firewalls. You can tell DMZ is a area between two firewalls. So the zone firewalls, we have FW1 and FW2 is the real DMZ labeled as DMZ2. Between firewall 1 and firewall 2, we have one more DMZ, right? That is labeled as DMZ2. So demilitarized zones, or DMZ, are so called because they are often host servers that are accessible to the internet and also to the internal network. And because they are accessible to the public, they are most likely machine to be compromised in the entire network. Means these are the likely machine that can be compromised in the entire network. That is why it is circled or marked here like this specifically. Now once a machine is in the DMZ is compromised, the other machine in the DMZ could also get infected. Since DMZ1 is publicly accessible server, DMZ2 is internet proxy server. So all internal machines have private IP addresses. It is neither necessary nor desirable for the third parties of the internet to be aware of the private addresses of the internal machines. So what can be done? A DNS server is placed in the internal network. You can see that, right? So that's all about this thing. I will not stretch this session now. That's all. So you read about this. That's all. Placement of firewalls, types of firewalls, and access control list. That's all is there, and some case study is there. Right, so that's all from this session. Thank you guys, and make sure you fill out the form before before 10:30. I'll just send you a form after this. So thank you guys, that's all from my side. Hope this session was helpful for you. Next thing we'll talk about is next session we'll talk about is intrusion prevention systems. Right, thank you all for joining, but still I'm not seeing enough strength, full strength, even though I, as per your request, I as per your convenient time, I did it at 9, but I am still seeing is the same. It's one and same. But anyway, I will do the session as per my convenient time also. So you have to also follow that. Right, guys. Thank you all. See you later. Bye. Have a good day. Thank you all.